counselors are present. We're welcoming back Councilor Perry. And first item on the agenda is election of council chairperson. So I'll take nominations. Yes, sir.
I will quickly like to nominate Cindy Maynard with the hope that she will accept that nomination.
Second. Enthusiastically.
Yeah, that was quick. I would accept the nomination, but is there any other nominations? Jeez, no. All right. Hearing none, I will accept the nomination and I will take a vote. All those in favor of Cynthia Maynard as chairperson? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to agenda review. I don't believe we have anything. So I will stall before the presentation.
Well,
Hi.
hi.
Do you want me to stall?
Everything other things, but the boss is on it.
Okay. So we're on to presentation of Chief Ewing is going to give us an update on Maine Day.
Yes, and I have with me Lori Sedelko from the University of Maine.
Okay.
So this is kind of a cooperative effort. I will at least let you know what our perspective is from the police department. We had, as we talked before, we had a lot of meetings over the summer based on last year's shenanigans, and we kind of wanted to put together a plan working with the university and the landlords in an effort to lower the level of dangerous activity and disruptive behavior on Maine Day. So from the police department's perspective, we have contacted all of the property owners, the larger property owners, the large complexes. They all seem to have a very good plan in place to remind their tenants what the expectations are as far as enforcing the lease. 2 out of the 3 have security, large presence of security on site. Other landlords have made it very clear, they've set the expectations very well with their tenants. We are upstaffing significantly in the police department. We'll have extra of our own personnel as well as outside agencies that are coming in to work overtime both Tuesday night before Maine Day and then all day Maine Day and Maine Day evening in an effort to kind of show a large police presence, high visibility, lots of traffic stops and contacts with the hopes that that will also help quell any sort of disruptive behavior. So I will hand it off to Lori and she will talk about how the university is assisted.
Hello all. Thanks for having snacks for me for tonight. That was really nice of you. Just kidding, they're not for me. So I just want to just kind of give a full picture of the whole Maine Day, where it came from and, in my opinion, how it turned and what we're going to do about it. So I work for Student Life on campus, and I've worked there for 18.5 years now, and I've been involved with Maine Day since I got there. However, Maine Day started in 1935. President Houck made Maine Day a day for spring cleanup, and the motto for it was "Give where you live." And that was kind of the purpose of Maine Day. So we've had it now since 1935. Every year we cancel classes that day. And things went very well for a number of years, as many of you know. And about, what, 4 years ago or so? About 4 years ago or so, things started to go downhill. We added a couple of things into the mix. One of the things was a concert that started happening the night before Maine Day. And it was inside and then it was outside, and so that kind of added to the party atmosphere. Of course, it's been cold and awful in every spring, and then that's kind of gives a release day. So that added with one of the larger complexes creating a beach party situation where there was a place to go both before the concert and then parties happened afterwards. It's kind of rolled downhill since then. So, I'm sorry?
What year did that start?
The beach party situation about 4 years ago. That's what we have been able to figure out. It's about 4 years since the beach party situation happened. That organization no longer runs that complex, so that's not a bad thing. And there's not any beach parties planned for the near future. But I also, so last summer, as Josh said, both Sophie and the chief called a meeting. We met with landlords. We met with a number of other community members, as well as a number of people from the university, to talk about how we were going to fix this. We all came to agreement over the course of these meetings. The landlords said they were going to do their part. The complexes, obviously, and the community members also said that they were going to do their part. And so some of the things we identified that I just want to talk about that we agreed that we were going to do. Of course, we used a problem solution base. We identified a lot of the problems and started to just kind of tick those off one by one. So we moved the concert. The concert is actually happening on campus this weekend on Saturday night. It's going to be taking place inside. It's for students and students only. We found that sometimes some of our concerts get out of control when we have a lot of other non-students who can't be held responsible on campus, start to cause the melt. So we moved the concert. We ran an ad already in the Maine campus newspaper talking about service and volunteerism and what Maine Day is all about, just reminding students that that is important to us and that's something that we want to continue to happen in the spirit of Give Where You Live. We're sending a mailer out to all students who live in the greater Orono area. I don't have a copy to give you. It's still in draft form. But we're mailing it to every student, and one side of it will have the history of Maine Day, talk about the spring cleanup, the spirit of Give Where You Live, and then the other side of that card will give tips on being a good neighbor, what it means to live in a community. I can list off some of those things if you're interested in hearing them. So that mailer is going out. We have not approved any events with alcohol the day before or the day of Maine Day. That is a difference also. Sometimes people, anyone can have an event with a catered party event with a liquor license whenever they request to, and as long as it's safe, it seems reasonable, they are approved. Well, that is not being approved this year. In addition to that, we've added to the schedule. So the schedule of Maine Day is that from 8 to 9 in the morning, we have a parade to wake up all the students. We play loud music and bands and such, wake them all up. Then we send them off to go clean up the campus. Then we have a barbecue for them. It's nice to feed them. Then in the afternoon, it's dedicated to fundraising and philanthropy. So we do St. Baldrick's and things like that to raise money for good causes. This year, we're going to have an acoustic show from the radio station from 5 to 7 on campus, just a small, low-key music kind of festival with food trucks, followed by a double feature of movies that are going to be held inside on campus. So I think other than that, you know, as the chief said, we've recommended to the complexes that they beef up security, which it sounds like they have. We offered to them that maybe they want to do service there to have, it's hard to tear up the rose bush that I just spent the day planting. So we suggested some of those types of things. We also asked, Webster Park was of particular interest that people were having some issues in. We suggested to the people who lived in Webster Park that they reach out to their student neighbors and extend a hand. And since these meetings took place last summer, we asked them to spend the whole year doing that, so that again on Maine Day, when things get out of hand, it's easy to look your neighbor in the eye and say, please don't do that. And it's a lot easier. I don't know where that went, but we made that suggestion. And then I think finally, is in terms of security and our conduct process, we're making it very clear to students that we've increased our campus police presence and that we're not only interested in sanctions but also in summons. So the tolerance level will not be high. So that's kind of what the plan is, and I think it was a good collaboration with all of us.
Lori, about how many catered events were approved in years past?
Last year we had one the day before. It was the senior wine and cheese, and it was right before the concert. It had about 180 people attend.
Okay.
When you say summons and I forgot what the other word was already, what are the type of penalties that can be received from for students?
So in our conduct process, anyone who violates is found responsible of violating the student conduct code. There's anything that can, from warning to being expelled. It just depends on the process. With that, there's a lot of leeway to say that, if we warned you, we've already warned you. So your next level is going to be a little bit more significant. And so that's what we're saying to the students, is that this is your warning ahead of time, that we're asking that you not do things that are going to, negatively affect our community. And that's your warning. So we're going to step up from there. But they're all case by case.
Sure.
I mean, it's hard to say what would happen. I mean, vandalism and things like that. I mean, they have to obviously pay restitution, but they're also going to have some sort of a status. They all found responsible means they have to pay a $50 fee. And then, of course, the summons are up to the police.
So,
not our call.
So if vandalism happened at a large apartment complex, would the university have any disciplinary?
That actually came up in our meetings this summer. Anyone can refer to our conduct process anytime. You could refer to our conduct process if you want. I mean, if you had a student's name and something happened and there was some sort of report that you wanted to, us to follow up on, absolutely. And we were clear to tell the landlords that as well. Yeah, the jurisdiction of the university and the conduct process is, if you're a student, then you're held to the student conduct code.
Hi, I live on Penobscot Street, and last Maine Day, the kids from the Ave and the Reserve and all that stuff have kind of got the back door out there, and there were fires along the river because there's a long tract of land and beer cans and all of that stuff, but it didn't seem like there was very much patrolling or supervision along that particular place. I was just wondering if there was an awareness of where those kids were kind of slipping out of onto the street.
Last year was a unique year. We were out of town, and the agencies that came in had their hands full. There were probably many areas in town that weren't getting the attention that it needed because of the large numbers of crowds in one area. We're hoping with the more than doubling the number of officers that are going to be working, I think we'll be able to cover everything. But please call if you don't see us. May 3rd, 2nd. Wednesday, yeah. Someday in May, we're going to be really just the whole month. No, I'm just kidding.
I read a very informative article on the Maine campus about the concert being moved, and it pointed out that, or at least I think it quoted a university official who pointed out that the concert being before Maine Day has only been around since 2015, which doesn't sound, it's not really a long historic precedent, so you can't really say, oh, but it's a tradition, it's only been around since 2015. But the flip side of that is the current seniors, to them, this is what Maine Day is, and we talked a lot about changing the culture, and so I think all of these things are wonderful. I'm worried that this is going to be a rocky year because there are some students who think this is how it is, only because it's been that way for the 4 years they've been here. But I'm confident that in the next couple of years, maybe we really can shift that culture.
Yeah, I think the bad news is that this year will be rocky. I think the good news is that everyone's memories are short and they graduate frequently. So I think that's the good news. I mean,
some students do graduate.
Yes, some. Did you graduate quickly, Sam? No, I'm just, never mind, sidebar. So I actually want to mention a couple of things that are going to be on that flyer that we're sending out. I apologize for using my phone, but that's what I have for it on. Things that we're saying, one side of the flyer is basically talking about living in a neighborhood. Introduce yourself. Make sure that your neighbors know you. If you have a problem or concern, speak directly with that person. Keep in mind that residential neighborhoods are a mixture of lifestyles and needs, and be respectful of your neighbors' preferences and make changes to accommodate them. So we're being pretty clear that the temporary students who live here need to be respectful of their neighbors. Visit your neighbors, say hello. They might not be a cat or a dog lover, so use show your responsibility for your pets. Keep your area clean. If you borrow something, return something. Things, basic respect. But those are the kinds of things that are going to go out on that flyer to just remind our students that they live here and this is their community. And that was one of the things that came up in the meeting quite a bit, was that we want to make it clear that this is their home too, and we want them to feel like it's their home and feel some ownership in that. So.
Great. Does anybody else have anything
I just want to say I really appreciate the effort that you folks have gone to. I think this is a positive step, and it will take time to see significant change, I'm sure, but we're moving in the right direction.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Right. All right, we'll move on to approval of minutes of March 12th, 2018 and March 19th, 2018. I'll take a motion, please.
Move approval.
Second?
All right. Did anyone have any changes, comments, corrections?
Nancy has done a fine job as always.
All right, that's what we like to hear.
Write that down, Nancy.
All right, all those in favor of approval of the minutes? Passes unanimously. Moving on to public hearings. Public hearing A, to consider a vitulers license for Grateful Pie, 6 Stillwater Avenue. Hi, Dave.
Hi, good evening, folks. I'm Dave Milan, the Director of Community Development. Mine isn't anywhere near as exciting as that previous presentation, but I can tell you that the staff has reviewed the application. This is a new application. We've completed the inspections, and we confirm that the sewer fees and personal property taxes are current, and we recommend approval of license.
Is the person here that's Grateful Pie?
Do not see them.
Okay. Do you know what Grateful Pie is? Can you?
It's a restaurant with soups, salads, sandwiches, all that stuff I like.
Pie?
Pie, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Dave. Does anyone wish to speak for or against the issuing of this license? Hearing none, I'll close public hearing A and move on to public hearing B. To consider a Class 11 malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license, special amusement permit for music, dancing, and entertainment, and for vitulers license for Stillwater Brewing Company doing business as Bear Brew Pub, 36 Main Street.
Staff has reviewed the application. We've completed the inspections, confirms that sewer fees and personal property taxes are current, and we recommend approval of the license.
Right. Does anyone wish to speak for?
Here representing
Oh,
the Bear Brew Pub, if anybody has any questions.
okay. Anything fun and exciting happening at the Bear Brew Pub these
Good
days?
pizza.
Good pizza?
Well, it's been pretty good.
Good.
I mean, the kids are pretty good. We haven't had a lot of problems. And what few we've had, I would like to thank the Orono PD and also the first responders from the fire department. We had a little chimney fire.
Oof.
And the guys have been great. And I will also say the ladies in the town office are wonderful.
Great.
Pleasure.
Great, thank you. Great to hear. Anyone else wish to speak? Hearing none, I'll close public hearing B and move on to public hearing C. To consider a Class 11 restaurant, lounge, malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license, special amusement permit for music, dancing, and entertainment, and vitulers license for Woodman's LLC, doing business as Woodman's Bar and Grill, 31 Main Street.
Good evening. The staff has reviewed the application, completed inspections, confirmed sewer fees and personal property taxes are current, and recommends approval of the license.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak for or against the issuing of this license? Hearing none, I'll close public hearing C and move on to public hearing D. To consider a Class 11 restaurant, malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license, special amusement permit for music, dancing, and entertainment, and vitulers license for JVR Hospitality, Inc., doing business as The Roost, 19 Mill Street.
You could all join me if you'd like. Staff has reviewed the application. We've completed inspections. We've confirmed that the sewer fees and the personal property taxes are current, and we recommend approval of the license.
Anyone wish to speak for or against the issuing of this license? Hearing none, I'll close public hearing D
Thank you.
and move on to public hearing E. Ordinance amendments to the Town of Orono Ordinances, Chapter 20, Law Enforcement, Article 1, in general, Section 20-01 through 20-04, formally establishing a police department. It's about time.
All this time, been operating. Josh Ewing, Police Chief. This came up in our accreditation process. The commission likes to see that you have the authority to do what you're doing. And though we could probably piggyback off the state statute allowing for the police department to be created, we felt that it really ought to be in the ordinance defined and what our purpose is for the town. Go right ahead there, boss.
I would just say that the council has explicit authority to create departments in the town charter. CALEA representatives are not quite as wanting to have to search. They want something that very clearly defines why we have what we have. The one thing that this ordinance revision will do in the charter, when you it gives the council the ability to create departments, but then also says that the town manager can be the police chief. And this town does not want a town manager to be a police chief unless that individual happens to be a certified law enforcement officer with qualifications to be a police chief. So the one thing that you are doing with the adoption of this revision is to say that the police chief shall be a specific individual who has certain qualifications. I like that. Just
Great. Should we give a quick rundown of what CALEA is? It's a nationwide
Certainly. Yeah, the Commission for Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, it's a national, international board that establishes best practices for professional police services. Throughout time, they've just basically evaluated what the best way to do personnel, operations, everything that we do from soup to nuts. They've established standards on how that should be done, and they're constantly evaluated on what those current standards are, and then they enforce those standards on agencies like us to make sure that we're following those same high-level standards.
And we've been accredited for
1 year.
1 year?
1 year. We're in the first year of a 4-year cycle.
But we had
Well, we had a smaller version of it back in 2011, yes, a watered-down version of what we're doing now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Josh, if I'm not mistaken, this is a voluntary organization.
It is.
And only police organizations that want to aspire to the high standard that the commission establishes go through this process.
Yes, roughly 5% of the agencies in the country are accredited.
And we're one of 4 in Maine, is that right?
In the state, Lewiston, Auburn, Cumberland County, and us, yes.
Congratulations on that. I will now ask the public if there's anyone that has any comments for or against this ordinance or questions. Right, hearing none. Thank you, Josh. I will close public hearing E. And we will move on to acknowledgments by council members. I'm going to pick on Sam tonight.
Yeah, I have some things. I'm sure a couple other people will mention this too. I know there's been a lot happening. First of all, I want to congratulate everyone on surviving that last little snow we had last week without going off the deep end. But Orono High School show choir had an amazing season this year. I want to congratulate them on winning Division II state champions. I think they would have won any division they were in. Incredible performance. I saw a number of rehearsals. I saw a performance here. I went to the championship in Millinocket. It was absolutely one of the best and most professional things I've ever seen. I really want to give acknowledgement to that. Incredible, selfless performance. But it was not just a great song and dance and show choir kind of set. It was such impactful. It was written and created by the students with meaning to them, and a phenomenal example of how art can change people. Championships are great, a trophy is great, but this impacted every single individual who saw it. Cannot give them enough credit, especially to Cammie Carter and Daniel Perkins, the directors. Lori's kids, both of them were in it. They were fantastic. Everyone was fantastic in it. But Jesse Walker, Charlie Marks, and Isaiah Grace all won soloist awards. Truly astounding. Kudos to them. I'm done. Thank you.
Good job, Sam. Lori, do you have anything? No. Tom?
Well, I haven't been keeping up with my Orono news as well as I normally do, but I did notice the passing of two longtime Orono residents that I would like to mention. Stan Freeman, a very long time member of our community who made many, many contributions, passed away recently. And Alita Coates, another longtime member of our community who did a lot of volunteer work in the community, passed away recently, and I would like to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Just so you know, Megan's been trying to keep up for you. But
Thank you, Megan.
She's done a great job.
Yeah. Tom, do you have?
Well, I was also happy to see the snow disappear by Saturday afternoon. But I will tell you that spring is actually officially on its way because we were clearing some of the gardens and there are tulips coming up.
Nice.
Megan?
I want to echo Sam's congrats to the students from Orono High School. It's really great to see arts programs thriving, especially in a society that frequently undervalues the arts, particularly in education. So it's really wonderful that we have this really thriving program in our community. About the weather, not to step on Councillor Spitz's toes at all, because that was hopeful, but I am wearing a thermal shirt, and I changed my flannel shirt to a thicker flannel shirt this afternoon, and I wanted to stop. So I would like to acknowledge that. Mother Nature, please make it stop. And then finally, on a more serious note, I'd like to commend Officer Lesky and the other members of OPD for taking the initiative to put on this workplace safety and school safety program last week that happened here in council chambers. What to do if there's a violent episode in your school or your workplace is something that no one really wants to think about, but it's preparedness that will save lives, potentially. So it was a real community service to run this program and to take the initiative to create the program, and I'm just really glad to see that focus on safety and prevention.
Thank you. Cheryl?
Yeah. This is my first acknowledgement. I'm so excited. I would like to send out an acknowledgement to the Islamic Center of Maine and Orono. We have great diversity in this town. I think I've been to almost all the open houses that they've had. And they put on an awesome open house. They're friendly. The outreach is incredible. There's a lot of students that go. There's a lot of community members that go. And I think it's just a wonderful opportunity for the community to meet people. They had some excellent speakers. And I also want to acknowledge the council. I don't know if anyone does that, but thank you so much for welcoming and teaching and learning. It's an amazing process. And I encourage people to run if there's ever an open seat, because it's great. And thank you all so much for what you've done.
Councillor Osher has come up with something.
So I thank Sam for mentioning the show choir and their win this last weekend, but also in the last month, Orono's had a one-act play that did well in the regional competition and then went to the state competition in Rockport, and they came in second. It was the first time that Orono's gotten to the state competition in several years, and they did a fabulous job, and very exciting for the school to be recognized that way. And then the Orono had a state jazz ensemble that went to the state championships and got I think an honorable mention. So we're very lucky to have the teachers that work with the kids to these special things outside of the regular curriculum, and the kids are enjoying it and having lots of success.
Thank you. I would like to just thank all of council for my re-election. I will try to serve you well. And I'd also like to congratulate Jeff Lowe. It's official that he is now our fire chief and will start shortly. February.
We wish. No, April.
Yeah.
April 30th.
April 30th. So we're looking forward to having him come. All right, we'll move on to unfinished business. I don't believe we have anything. And the next item is the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to take anything off the consent agenda?
Yes, I do. Can we move Order 1839 off the consent agenda so that I may recuse myself?
All right. Anything else anyone needs to move off, wants to move off? Nope. Hearing nothing, I will take a motion on the consent agenda without Order 1839.
Move approval.
Second.
All right. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. So we're moving on to new business, I believe. Yep, new business. So I will take up Order 1839 first in new business. The order approving a Class 11 restaurant, lounge, malt, spirituous and vinous liquor license, special amusement permit for music, dancing, and entertainment, and victualer's license for Woodman's LLC, doing business as Woodman's Bar and Grill, 31 Main Street. I'll take a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
All right. Anyone have anything to say?
Oh, yes. Sorry, that's me. I'm recusing myself because my husband's a part-time employee of Woodman's LLC.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll take a vote on Order 1839. All those in favor? Passes 6 with 1 abstention. Thank you. All right. New business, Order 18-52, order adopting ordinance amendments to the Town of Orono Ordinances, Chapter 20, Law Enforcement, Article 1, in general, Section 20-1 to 20-4, formally establishing a police department.
Move approval.
Second.
All right. Council have any other questions, comments? Kind of talked about it. All right. Hearing none, I'll take a vote on Order 1852. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Order 1853, order adopting a 6-month moratorium ordinance extension on retail marijuana establishments and retail marijuana social clubs. I'll take a motion, please.
Move approval.
Second.
All right. Dave, vote.
I want to just start out, more about the process. So the council adopted this moratorium after the passage of the referendum that said to give council the opportunity to let the state make the law around retail sale and marijuana social clubs, and give us the opportunity to do some research and then have a public policy discussion at the local level about how Orono wanted to regulate, if at all, beyond the state law. We, at the 6 months ago, we came before council and gave you a probably 10-minute PowerPoint presentation that took you step by step with all of the things that we had done around learning, some research, and reaching out to create the team that will best serve council when it's ready to have its public policy discussion. So tonight, we need to tell you what we've done and what, why we think that council should consider adopting a moratorium extension for another 6 months. And that's why Dave's here.
Good evening, folks. Dave Mylan, the Director of Community Development. And mine says staff will provide brief update, and it's underlined brief, so I'm trying to be timely with that. As the town manager said, the issue is for the moratorium, extending the moratorium was simply to talk about what we've done and then why you should go forward with that. And in essence, what we've been doing during the time period that the moratorium was in effect was to work with the legislature, work with the state in determining what the rules were going to be. We're in a position where it's very difficult to create ordinances, be able to create processes for the uses covered under the act that was was passed by a public referendum in 2016. It's hard to be able to do anything with that until we understand what it is that what the rules are going to be that the state's going to require. So for the better part of this past year, the legislature's Marijuana Legalization Implementation Committee has worked to craft legislation containing many of the important amendments to Maine's Marijuana Legalization Act. The act, which legalizes the use of marijuana by persons over 21 years of age, as well as industries associated with such use, became law in 2017 as a result of the statewide referendum approved by the voters in 2016. Legislators voted to delay retail sales until February of 2018, this past February. Last year, the state legislature rewrote the ballot measure into a more strictly regulated law, but Governor LePage vetoed that bill, delaying the implementation of the legal sales. State legislators have gone back to the drawing board, and the legislative committee has just finalized the newest version of the regulations this past week, and that will soon be advanced to the House for debate there. The opt-in requirement that we've talked about in previous the moratorium conversations is still included in the recent revisions. In other words, the municipalities would have to opt in in order to be able to. There's not an automatic inclusion in those uses. But even if the legislature quickly approves the new bill and the governor signs it, full retail sales are not expected to begin until next year at the earliest, in 2019. And some versions of the bill actually list the sales beginning in 2020. So we're talking about a period of time before the actual retail sales would take place. The extension of the moratorium is appropriate because it would be very difficult to design the appropriate ordinances until state law addresses the sales and manufacturing that have been put into place. As an example, the 2016 referendum approved marijuana social clubs, yet the current draft legislation removed all language pertaining to the social clubs. I believe that the town council will be best served by discussing what the best options would be for the community once the state has successfully passed legislation relating to those commercial uses. And I stand prepared to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, say this law passes in the next couple of weeks, but they push out sales till 2020.
2019 or 2020, depending on which version you read.
So it's legal, and somebody could come in, if we didn't have the moratorium, somebody could come in and get zoning and to set up shop, but they just couldn't open until the date.
As I understand it, by not having a moratorium, as soon as the state enacts a new law, even if it's not going to become valid for a year, that would not preclude somebody from giving us an application. And once we have an application, we have to act on that application. And so the advice that we have received from Maine Municipal Association is by keeping a moratorium in effect, we are saying we will not accept applications, so that when an application comes in, council will already have the regulatory tools it needs, the planning board would need, to be able to make sure that that activity goes in a place and meets the performance standards that council wants.
And just so I'm remembering correctly, there's not a limit on the number of moratoriums.
Correct.
No, you can continue to extend, but you can only extend in 6-month increments.
Right. So we're not, again, I think maybe every time we renew the moratorium, we have this conversation, but we're not necessarily saying, no, Orono doesn't want that. It's just we want the public to have the opportunity to give input and do that in a fashion that doesn't kind of cut the rug out from under them.
And I would just follow up with that, is that even though your moratorium is for 6 months, that's the maximum of 6 months. You can choose to take it up as the council chooses any time prior to that. So if some decisions were made by the legislature prior to the 6 months, you're certainly free to bring that up at your convenience.
What's the difference between, or maybe you can't answer this question yet, between an establishment that serves, sells marijuana and an establishment that serves or sells alcohol? Is that going to be, I mean, what's the?
Well, just different licensing, completely different oversight, different, different permitting, different licensing from a state level.
Okay.
For, again, not knowing exactly what the state legislation is going to be when it ends. For one differential I could say is that there was legislation that was limiting the number of retail establishments in your community for retail marijuana sales. There isn't that restriction on alcohol. And
right.
Okay.
Another example, Cheryl, would be at one point a draft of this legislation said that if you were going to sell marijuana and marijuana products, you could not also sell non-marijuana products. So if you were going to have a bakery that had pot brownies, you couldn't also sell brownies. And that is, in this last version that I saw, which I've not seen the one that came out on Friday, that had been taken away so that you could go in and you could buy your regular M&Ms and your pot brownie in the same location.
Reese's Pieces are better, frankly, but just a personal observation.
Does anyone else have any more questions or comments for Dave?
Thank you, folks.
We have all right. I guess I will take a vote on Order 1853. All those in favor of the moratorium extension? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Order 1854, order authorizing the town manager to sign an agreement with XL Automation of Bangor for instrumentation and controls for the town office UVAC system in the amount of $21,989 to be drawn from the approved boiler replacement capital project budget, and further to move $5,000 of funds from the approved FY18 municipal and public safety facilities operating budget to the capital facilities budget to fund the project. I'll take a motion on that.
So moved.
Second.
Sophie, I get this is yours.
Yes, this is me. And I think UVAC, while it's a wonderful organization on campus, I think what we really meant to say was HVAC system. Back in 2016, council appropriated funds as part of the capital budget to replace the boilers in this building. Now, the boilers in this building also serve the public safety building as well, so it's one heating system for both buildings. We had hoped with that project that we would also be able to upgrade the instrumentation and controls, because that is what allows us in many ways to address issues and increase the effectiveness of the system, so that we're not freezing everybody, as an example, and just one person maybe. We had relied on a budget estimate that, when coupled with the boiler budget estimate, would have just come in at what the appropriation was. When we decided to do the project, we split boiler and controls because we were told that that would get us a better price on the boiler, which was the largest piece of the project. We got the boiler in at budget, but when we did the controls update, the budget number that we had was too low. And so the estimate that we thought would come in at about 12,000 came in, I'm sorry, not 12,000. We thought would come in at about 20,000 came in, no, I'm right. So, yes, there we go. So we have gone through and done the bulk of the repairs that we had planned in the facilities budget for the public safety and town office building for this year, which is one budget for 2 buildings. And we've noticed that the boiler upgrade has netted a significant savings in the natural gas line in the budget, well over $5,000 of savings. So our thought was, if we move forward at this point, the company, the low bidder, is still willing to honor the original bid, and we could use what is remaining of that boiler project budget and add the $5,000 of already appropriated natural gas budget and get the project completed this fiscal year, which would be the goal.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Is that why you have the air blowing this evening?
No, the air's blowing because it's cold out, and we clearly need some makeup heat in this system.
All right. If no one has any questions or comments, I'll take a vote on Order 1854. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to council committee representative reports. I don't know, Sam, do you like to go after Megan or
I like to go before Megan.
All right, then you're.
Golly, it's hard to keep up with her. Okay. Community Development Committee meeting, we met March 22nd. There are a few items we had. One, we went over a website audit exploring redeveloping our website, the town website, for ease of use and navigation to better engage with our citizens and also to enhance communication, a tool for communication. The audit was conducted by Pulse Marketing of Bangor, I believe. It included analytics and made several suggestions. There is an ad hoc committee working on this. Councilor Gardner and myself will be meeting about this, and will come to the council with suggestions for next steps as we move forward with that whole process. Looking forward to that. Were we talking about social media with that too? No, just the website. Just the website. Yeah. Recreational trail update. We received an update on repairs of the trails from last October's windstorm. Significant damage, but repairs are well underway. Overall messages, it's going to look a whole lot different, folks, because there's about an acre or so that was blown down, but trying to get that back together. Also, as part of the comprehensive plan, one of the goals was to establish the goal of improving and promoting the town's recreational assets. Staff has been working with the Orono Land Trust and Trails Committee with some exciting new initiatives and areas of potential growth, and that also tying into economic development possibly in the future as well, so some exciting things happening there. And then the last thing really, other than the police department, formally establishing the police department, which we did tonight, we looked at regulations on discharging the projectiles in the no firearm discharge area. A brief follow-up on that, meaning the possibility of prohibiting hunting on town-owned property that is within the no firearms discharge area, which would be pretty much everything on this side of Stillwater. How'd I do? Thumbs up from Sophie.
All righty. Thank you, Sam. Megan.
All right, I've got 2 reports. Comp Plan Implementation Committee met on April 2nd. We talked about the property maintenance standards, revising the Chapter 8 ordinance. It was a continuation of what we had been having a spirited conversation about the previous meeting. Basically, we picked at the revisions a little bit and want to continue working on some of the language in the ordinance revision. We also saw the piece that's about code enforcement, the enforceability of these, which was kind of a big driver in this property maintenance standard, which deals with public health and safety concerns in external areas, property areas. And so giving code enforcement the ability to actually enforce these things and have there be a process is one of the things that we're kind of putting together. And we're receiving public input in the near future. I forget the date or time of when that's happening. Or we're moving it in that direction. Okay, we don't have time
Moving
yet.
it to workshop, and
Workshop,
if the
and then to-
council agrees,
yes.
it will go to public hearing.
Yes, all right.
June.
really, that was the bulk of our meeting. We had a brief town manager's report that included many items. Two that I'd like to mention specifically is we had an update on the vernal pool situation that we've been handling in that committee. Where, again, we're always trying to figure out the best way to balance what's going on with vernal pools and conservation in this town, also with economic growth and growth areas in the town. And we also discussed having to move our first budget workshop because it was originally going to be on Monday the 23rd, but that's going to be the Board of Assessment meeting instead. So we'll be meeting on the 26th. And I also have an Orono Historical Society report. We had a fascinating visit from Town Clerk Shelley Crosby. I nerded out a lot, but she came in to explain what's been going on with the vault in the town hall and all of the old records going back to the early 1800s that, and all kinds of other things that ended up in the vault over the last 200 plus years. My understanding, so she was telling us about getting that space in order over the last 3 years, and then how they're moving into the process of figuring out what documents need to be preserved, and then how that preservation operation is going to go. I think that council committee will be hearing about that from her sometime down the road, not too long from now. Everybody in OHS was fascinated. She brought one of the books of road maps going back to as far back as they had, road information in the town that has been restored already, this big, huge book with all of these. Anyway, it was really wonderful. The OHS is going to actually be coming over to take a look at the vault in the near future. Also, they did I told you last month about their plan to issue a reprint of Doug Glanville's old Orono Oddments, which is a fascinating and very thoroughly researched book about Orono's history. The book is now currently at the printers, and so in the near future it'll be in existence, and that is a fundraising initiative for the Orono Historical Society when they have those ready to go.
Where will we be able to purchase those?
That will be forthcoming information.
Is that it? And Finance did not meet this month, so we will wait till next month to have a big update. So now we're moving on to future agenda items and items of concern, and because I've picked on that side, I'll start with Cheryl on this side. Do you have any?
I do not.
I like that you thought about it.
I have to think about it.
Megan?
I do have an item of concern.
Uh-oh.
We are about to enter into budget season, and my concern is that last year, my first budget season, there were a couple of stalwart folks that came to every workshop, but not many people come. A lot of people in town have big feelings and big opinions about the budget, and we really, really, really want to hear them. And so one of the best ways for that to happen is we have these workshops. We have, not one for each department. Sometimes there's 2 departments into one workshop, but we go department by department in this series of workshops to look at that department's budget. So if you're interested to know what's going on with the library's budget or public safety's budget or public works' budget, look at the schedule and come to that meeting and let us know. You'll hear the same information we're hearing. We can kind of do it on a micro level so we know what services are really meaningful and important to the town. We want that feedback. So the first workshop is going to be April 26th. And my understanding is that by that time, there should be an easily accessible schedule of these workshops and what department will be discussed at each workshop.
So over the weekend, we finalized the draft budget so counselors can pick it up on their copy on the way out. Our next step is going to be to put a PDF version of the draft budget up on the website so people can see what council is looking at, and also a schedule which has departmental, what day we're going to be discussing what.
Great. Is that it?
That's it.
Tom, do you have anything?
In order to move this along more quickly, I have nothing.
Okay. Tom? Lori?
I have more than one thing.
Okay.
One was that you mentioned this discussion of the web page, and you had mentioned that in an email too, something about the web redo. But do you have a timeline for that?
We're hoping the committee is going to get together, and we don't really have a time. I don't know what the committee. Sophie, do you have it?
So the committee that we're talking about is a staff-led committee. So staff is trying to bring together some general ideas for the counselors to give some feedback on. This is a scheduled revision to the website that's part of our licensing fee that we pay. And we can't do it. They're not going to start on it before September or October. So this is us really trying to have a very thoughtful look at the website to see what we do want to change and how we might want to change it.
So they're already the organization, the business that handles our website, and so we're prepared to tell them how we'd want it to change when it's time as part of the contract to be able to get an upgrade. Okay, and so thank you, because I'm looking forward to that, and I think it's great they're doing that, but so then I get to my second item of concern, which is that I'm looking to support Orono to do its best to be available to all of the people and make people comfortable and hear what they have to say, and we don't actually have any committee. I guess we have sort of community development, but we don't really right now have a place that people can come and talk about how they want to have Orono to be better, different, more receptive, more open, more diverse. Although I think if you talk to people in Orono, we feel very important about how we want to be welcoming, and for example, having the open house, the mosque on the 7th was an important part of our community. So my item of concern is that I'd be looking to see how Orono moves to make more committees to allow people to get more involved. Certainly the idea of the budget, people coming to the budget workshops is a great idea, but that's what I'm looking for in the future, as a way to have more input from people before we get to the council meeting.
Sam, you have anything?
Sure, yeah, a couple quick things. I know we're in the middle, spring is starting to threaten to fully be here. I know we started with street cleaning, street sweeping, that sort of thing. We are in the midst of that, correct?
We have begun sweeping the streets. Our goal is to at least have the main streets swept before graduation. We have a striping contractor that will likely begin in early June. We are the second town in the list. Bar Harbor always goes ahead of us, but they should be done with the striping by July 1st by contract.
Great. So I know there seems to be a lot of sand out there this year because there's such a heavy use, especially the last month or so. So I know there's a nice ridge in the middle of my neighborhood that I'm sure will be going away soon. Also on that note, brush pickup is coming up next month, May 8th through 25th is happening. Again, I wanted to echo Megan's comments about attending the budget meetings, which we're heading into. Also, as we discussed a couple times now, thank you, Lori, for this as well, but as we do go forward with the web page work, please check out our website if you haven't already, orono.org. We would love your feedback, public feedback on that. You can email anybody here on council, but I'm scoons@orono.org. Please send any comments to me directly, or I'm sure Megan would be fine with that as well. And then spring cleanup's happening. There's a poster contest. Is that over? Or I'm putting a plug in for Belle here because I know she loves this.
So as part of our MS4, our municipal separated storm sewer system permit, we are required to do public education and outreach. And so the thing that we choose to do is to educate youth through a poster contest. So Belle and Rob Yerkes go into the school and talk about stormwater and why it's important not to put things down the grates into the basin, into the catch basins. And then they do a poster contest. That poster contest ends April 23rd, 23rd, 26th.
That's not convincing at all?
Yep.
Sometime in late April?
Sometime in late April. And we then use the winning posters in each of the age groups. We go to Gossamer's and they print them off for us as the posters to advertise the May 19th Street and Stream cleanup, which is another education and outreach that we are mandated to do for the permit. So that's May 19th. We start at 9 o'clock here. You go pick up some trash. We have a little informal contest about what people might be able to find. And then we end up over in the fire department for a barbecue.
Hopefully we won't be wearing our winter coats.
Or your heavy flannel either.
My lighter flannel.
Is that it? A little voice told me it's April 26th is the deadline. Oh, I'm sorry, Lori.
This is under future, not under concern. So a future items is that Orono Arts-a-Palooza comes up in June, and that's organized by the Stillwater Arts.
Stillwater Community Arts.
Stillwater Community Arts, and that's an opportunity for people to walk around downtown and go to different venues and hear music, local musicians, and see art presentations. And so if anyone who's listening to this doesn't know about Arts-a-Palooza and wants to be involved, Stillwater Community Arts is the way to contact. I guess there's a web page, but so that's June 16th. June 17th, Orono Brewing Company is sponsoring a Rainbow Run, which is part of the Bangor Pride Festival that begins on the 17th, and that'll be here, 9 o'clock, here in Orono, and it's a 5K fun run or walk, and then I think that's it.
Thank you. All right, moving on to public petitions. Don't think we have any. Public comments? So, Susan.
Hello, Susan Whitmore. Yes, I've got some grim news. If you haven't read it already, I'm just inclined to bring it up. I've been reading recent news reports in the Bangor Daily News pertaining to substance abuse and various, there have been, within the past month or so, there have been huge meth lab busts, like 2 of them within a small town. And more recently, this past weekend, on Friday evening, 9 overdoses in the close enough proximity within a few counties. And this isn't my favorite topic of discussion, but no one else brings it up. And, I think silence at this point about the topic does more harm than good. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know any of those people. They're not my responsibility. However, I view them as my neighbors within Maine. I'd rather hear about people being in good health, in good spirits. I'd rather hear of a person sitting alone in a room drooling at a wall as opposed to sitting in a room injecting heroin and near killing themselves. I'm more impressed it's kind of sad to say, I'm more impressed if a person can sit in a room and stare at a blank wall and drool, as opposed to sit in a room, inject heroin, and near die. Learn to go for a walk, go for a run, take a deep breath, do whatever it takes aside from what you've been doing. That's gonna voice that one.
Yep, thank you.
And so I've got to, with such awful news as that, hopefully it improves. And there's going to be some good news to back it up. So, Ms. Cheryl Robinson, welcome to council.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Susan. Dave?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. Again, for the public, my name is Dave Mylan, and I'm the Director of Community Development. And I wanted to take the opportunity to recognize some folks of my own. In your consent agreement this evening, you appointed Dave Russell from the City of Old Town as the alternate for our code enforcement officer, our plumbing inspector, and electrical inspector. And I just, again, wanted to publicly thank not only Dave Russell for the City of Old Town, but Bill Mayo, the city manager for Old Town. This service has been absolutely tremendous for us. I'm pleasantly enjoying my 40th year in public service this year, and I can tell you that the last 3 years that I've been involved with this partnership between the City of Old Town and the town of Orono has been nothing short of phenomenal. The quality that Dave brings as an inspector, we don't skip a beat. If Bill is out sick or if he's on vacation, people don't have to wait to get their inspections done because Dave comes over, and it doesn't cost us anything. So again, I just wanted to publicly thank them for that, and thank you for considering their appointments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Does anyone else have a public comment? Stuart? All right. Moving on to adjournment. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Counselors, we have something to sign tonight, but have a good evening.
I think there should be